So, Nancy Pelosi is stepping down. And with her departure, it really does feel like an entire era of American politics is coming to a close. For decades, she was one of the most powerful, and let's be honest, polarizing figures in Washington. So today, we're going to break down her historic career, some of those defining moments, and what her exit really means for the future.
And it all started with this, a really direct, simple statement in a video message. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. And just like that, with those few words, one of the most consequential careers in modern American politics officially entered its final chapter.
So, why is this such a big deal? Well, to really get it, you have to look at the career of this political giant. We're talking about someone who spent 4 decades in Washington.
Think about that. Over 40 years representing a single district, San Francisco. That's a tenure that spanned just immense change, not just in the country, but within her own party too.
And during that time, she didn't just serve in Congress, she climbed all the way to the top. She served 2 separate history-making stints as Speaker of the House. I mean, she first broke that glass ceiling way back in 2007, becoming the first woman to ever hold the gavel, and then, in what was a huge political comeback, she did it again in 2019. But was Speaker her only title? Not even close. She held pretty much every top leadership position her party has to offer. From whip, the person in charge of party discipline, to leader, the top strategist, and then finally Speaker. She was really at the helm of the House Democrats for an entire generation. You know, it's one thing to have the titles, right? But it's a whole other ballgame to actually know how to use them. And that brings us to the art of power and how Nancy Pelosi wielded her incredible influence. And make no mistake, she was absolutely one of the main power brokers in Washington. This wasn't just about being famous or being on TV. It was about her reputation behind the scenes as someone who could flat out get things done and shape the entire political landscape. So a huge part of her power was this legendary skill for whipping votes. Now, what does that even mean? Well, it's not just asking for support. It's this really complex game of persuasion, pressure, and keeping the party in line. Pelosi was known as a master at this, famous for her ability to track every single vote and know exactly what each person needed to get to a yes. And maybe the ultimate test of that skill was the Affordable Care Act. Passing that legislation was a monumental fight, and a lot of people thought, no way, this is impossible. But Pelosi is widely credited with being the one who held her caucus together and wrangled the votes, cementing her legacy as a truly formidable legislative tactician. But you know, a career this long and this influential, it's never just about the bills and the laws. It's also about those defining moments. You know, the images that last, the ones that really shape how the public sees you. And for a lot of people, nothing defined her more in the public eye than her role as a key foil to President Trump. Their dynamic was one of the central political dramas of his entire presidency. Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this, the State of the Union address in 2020. You could just feel the tension in that room. It was palpable, and it was all setting the stage for a moment that, well, no one would forget. The president finishes his speech, and then Nancy Pelosi, who's standing right there behind him, just picks up her copy of his address and tears it in half, on national television. It was this quiet but incredibly powerful act of defiance, a totally iconic rebuttal that was seen all over the world. But a single moment, no matter how iconic, doesn't tell the whole story. A legacy is always way more complicated than that. And that brings us to the bigger picture here. Her power, her party, and the big questions her departure raises for the future. Now here's a key fact. At the time she made her announcement, she was 85 years old. And her age, along with that of other senior leaders, has become a really central part of this whole debate inside the Democratic Party about the need for a new generation to take the reins. So you really have these 2 competing ideas. On the one hand, her power seems almost undiminished. I mean, even after stepping down from leadership, her voice still carries an immense amount of weight. But on the other hand, her very long tenure has fueled this persistent question, when is it time for a new generation to lead? So where does that leave us? Well, it brings us to her final chapter. And interestingly, in her announcement, she really stepped back from the national stage to frame her entire career as this love letter to her home, San Francisco. This is what she said, and it really gets to the heart of it for her. There has been no greater honor for me than to stand on the House floor and say, I speak for the people of San Francisco. It's just a powerful reminder of that deep connection she felt to the people she served for so long. And she kind of summed up this whole journey with these words: "We've made history, we've made progress, we have always led the way." It's a statement that really captures how she sees her own role and the role of her city in the bigger American story. So, this all leaves us with one crucial, lingering question. As one of Washington's most powerful figures finally steps back, who's going to step forward? The answer to that is going to define the next chapter of American politics.